far in the night, and the bairnies were crying, for the wicked stepmother were up to her work again, frightening little uns, throwing their dinner to dogs, snuffing out wicks.
Tabby's grisly stories transfixed the children and had a lasting effect on their writing.
But the bairnies crying and snivelling waked their poor old dead mother. And up she rose from grave, dragged her poor old dead limbs back home.
In Emily's novel Wuthering Heights, the ghost of the dead Cathy appears to the terrified Mr. Lockwood.
I heard distinctly the gusty wind and the fir bough repeat its teasing sound. I rose and endeavoured to unhasp the casement. The hook was soldered into the staple. I must stop it, nevertheless, I muttered, knocking my knuckles through the glass and stretching an arm out to seize the importunate branch, instead of which my fingers closed on the fingers of a little ice-cold hand.
O Britain fair, thou Queen of Isles.
The children kept a nightly ritual of walking around the table, immersed in their own private world. They were isolated from the illiterate village children and had few connections with the gentry.
That's enough now, children. Prayers, bed.
Yes, Papa.
Their companions were Byron's poetry, the Arabian Nights, the novels of Walter Scott, and their favourite Blackwood's magazine.
But Papa made sure that we knew the real world well enough. We always had books and newspapers in the house, and we read together every day. Politics, geography, history.
Bramble, I believe it's your turn to read to us.
Let's have something about the Duke of Wellington, or some of Lord Byron's poetry.
I've chosen a piece about Bonaparte, a far superior general to Wellington.
Nonsense.
And as for poetry, Miss Bronte, just wait till my own works are published to acclaim in Blackwood's magazine.
I would hate to see something I had written in print. I think it'd be rather nice to read the words. By Anne Bronte. Very well. We'll have some of Lord Byron's poetry.
Charlotte, I have selected a piece of Bramble to read. It's an account of a Luddite riot in 1812, which I witnessed as a young curate in Hartshead. Now, listen carefully, for in the morning I would like you to rewrite it in your own words. Bramble.
We have made it our business to collect a faithful narrative of the contest that took place at Rawford's.
The account of the Luddite attack on Rawford's Mill later appeared in Charlotte's novel Shirley.
Mr. William Cartwright has a mill used for the purpose of dressing cloth in a way objected to by the men.
It was from the time of those riots that I kept a firearm to protect my family. I left it loaded by my bedside at night. And for safety's sake, I would discharge it from the window every morning. By aiming at the churchyard, I wanted to be sure that if I accidentally hit anybody, they'd already be dead.
The moors were a second home to the children and became the setting for their make-believe adventures. They absorbed everything their father taught them and wove it into their fantasies.
Bonaparte threatens invasion and England trembles.
Oh, you can't kill her.
Take you all on.
Anne, you've killed him.
But even their childhood playground could be a dangerous place.
And the Grand Duke of Wellington leads victorious army. Julius Caesar arrives with the Romans. Standards fluttering in the breeze. Caesar can't be in the same play. Why not? Because he's dead. It makes sense.
I hope it makes sense.
One day a bog exploded on nearby Crow Hill.
End of the world?
Torrents of mud, peat and water up to 7 feet high swept down the valley across Haworth Moor.
Let's go and see it. No. Papa will be worried. We must go home.
The experience had a deep and unsettling effect on the young Brontes, who had been brought up to believe that the end of the world really was at hand.
We have just seen something of the mighty power of God. He has unsheathed his sword and brandished it over our heads, but still the blow is suspended in mercy. It's not yet fallen on us, but the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the universal frame of nature shall tremble and break and dissolve.
Patrick Bronte was renowned as a fiery and charismatic preacher, but at home he could be tender and thoughtful, buying gifts to delight his children.
What Papa has given me for my birthday.
What is it?
Soldiers. This one is Bonaparte, known to his intimates as Sneaky.
This one is the Duke of Wellington. It shall be mine. This one shall be mine. He looks a grave little fellow. I shall call him Gravy. Yours is a queer little thing, Anne. Let's call him Waiting Boy. Yes, Waiting Boy.
These are 12 young men who have been on a long and weary adventure. There are 4 genii sent to protect them. I am the genius Branii. You should be Tanii, you should be Emii, and you should be Anii.
They shall found the lands of Angria and Gondel, and the capital of their empire shall be the great glass town.
Its splendor shall dwarf the cities of Babylon.
London and Paris.
They shall conquer all who oppose them.
These toy soldiers sprang to life in the children's imagination, inspiring hundreds of adventure stories set in the fantasy lands of Angria and Gondel. The tales were dominated by battles, politics, and revolution. Angria and Gondel became elaborate worlds of violent aristocratic intrigue, where rival factions struggled for power. The Yorkshire moors transformed themselves into vast savannas, surrounded by olive groves and palm trees, and bathed in tropical sunlight. The children made quill pens out of rook's feathers, so that they could write in tiny lettering that would look like printing. Paper was expensive, so they cut up old sugar bags and pieces of wallpaper and sewed them together to make miniature books.
We called our childhood passion for writing scribble mania.
At first, these fantasies were a defense against the confusing outside world and a refuge from grief and isolation. But as the Brontes grew up, their fixation with the magical lands of their imagination would cast a shadow over their lives.
We wove a web in childhood, a web of sunny air. We dug a spring in infancy of water pure and fair. We are now grown up to riper age. Are they moulded back to clay, for life is darkly shaded, and its joys fleet fast away?
Gradually, the two imaginary worlds divided. Emily and Anne focused on Gondel, and Charlotte and Branwell became absorbed in Angria. One of their heroes was called Percy, Earl of Northumberland, who became Branwell's alter ego.
His countenance is handsome, but his mind is deceitful, bloody, and cruel. He's drinking again. Large amounts of brandy and wine. His archenemy is the Duke of Zamorna.